So I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 120 days now, and there's been 8 surprising things that I've learned along the way. Number 1, non-alcoholic beer is actually good now. You remember the days of O'Doul's being the only option out there. Those days are done. There is actually really good, legit non-alcoholic beer out there now. You might have seen I just interviewed the CEO of Athletic Brewing on my podcast. That's excellent. Guinness Zero, Heineken 00, Corona's coming out with one. Like, things have changed. Non-alcoholic beer, legit good. Number 2, not drinking gets easier, not harder over time. And the reason why is because when you first start not drinking, basically what happens is your friends and your family, nobody can really believe it. They're all trying to figure out what the heck you're doing. They might peer pressure you. They might, think it's kind of a game to get you to drink. That goes away after a month or 2. And what happens is they start assuming that you are not going to drink. They start stocking non-alcoholic beverages for you. They stop asking you questions at every party and occasion. So basically it gets easier the longer you go. Number 3, socializing without alcohol is actually not terrible. I know, that's surprising, right? It's everyone's worst nightmare to think about being at a party with super drunk people, you're the only one sober, et cetera, et cetera. But what happens is, assuming you're not with very drunk people, being at a party and not drinking, you get used to it over time. And honestly, these new non-alcoholic beverages, whether it's beers, there's also wines, even spirits coming out, there is something about having a drink in your hand, even if it is non-alcoholic, and it's not club soda and it's not LaCroix, but there is something about having an actual beer or wine or spirit drink in your hand that it's almost like a placebo effect, but it makes you feel like you are part of the party, part of the ritual. Listen, humans have been drinking for thousands of years, so it is a legit ritual, but there is something to be said for these non-alcoholic beverages. They really do actually make socializing easier. You feel like you're part of the party. Number 4, okay, this one might be controversial, but you actually become more social, not less social, when you're not drinking. What? Crazy, right? You feel like you need to drink a few, get yourself lubed up so you can have good conversation. Well, what actually happens is after you don't drink for a while, you get used to being in these situations where you're not relying on the inhibition, reducing effects of alcohol to make yourself become basically a good conversationalist. So you actually become more interesting. Over time, you become more confident because you're not relying on the alcohol to make you interesting and to give you the bravery to go out there and have conversations. Number 5, you actually find more hours in your week when you don't drink. We're all strapped for time, right? Huge problem for all of us. When you don't drink, you find more hours. Obviously, those usually come in the morning. Like, you might have been in bed, you might have been groggy, you might have been in a bad mood before if you had been drinking. Those are now your hours to play with, right? And personally, I found that some of those hours are the most rewarding, some of the most peaceful, some of the most productive hours, right? I'm working on side projects, I'm working on my fitness goals, right? You find those hours are critical. And so that is just a huge, huge impact of not drinking. Number 6, your mood improves dramatically when you don't drink. And it's not just the day after drinking, but it's the whole week long, the whole month long, right? There's a lot of stuff going on here. Andrew Huberman recently did an excellent episode on alcohol. If you haven't checked out that podcast, go check that out immediately. But he talks about a lot of things like the health of your microbiome, the quality of your sleep, the inflammation in your body. All of that stuff gets better when you are not drinking. And guess what? It puts you in a better mood. Number 7, I found that you don't actually crave alcohol. We all think, oh, I need a drink, I need a wine, I need a beer, it's been a long week. No, the alcohol is actually not what you are craving. What you are craving is rest, you're tired, relaxation, you want to just chill, and laughter, and just being with your friends, right? You want to sort of unplug. And believe it or not, all of that stuff is easier, not harder, when you're not drinking. And number 8, last but not least, this one maybe is controversial. I don't think it should be, but you don't actually have to have a problem, in quotes, to quit drinking, right? There are many people, myself included, who actually haven't struggled with addiction, haven't had a quote unquote problem, but look at alcohol and say, why am I putting this poison into my body that is working in the opposite direction of everything I want to do every day? Why am I doing this all the time? Making myself feel worse, be in a bad mood, all this kind of stuff. So you don't actually have to have a problem to quit drinking or even to really greatly lessen the amount of alcohol you're taking in on a regular basis. So those were 8 surprising things that I learned in my first 120 days. I'm going to keep this thing going. Follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever you are. Check out my podcast if you're interested. And if you want to dive more into this topic, I just wrote an article, I'll link below, that about 4,000 people have already read. So check that out. I think you'll like it.